Welcome to another Random Code stream. I'm going to be doing a couple things this afternoon real quick before I head off to dinner. I was in the mood, so I was going to do one. That's why they're called Random Code streams. They just pop up occasionally. So I was actually going to do this a little bit earlier, but right before I was going to sign off from my day job over there, somebody brought up a really weird issue where they were able to run tests. They use Rider, I use Visual Studio. They're on a Mac. I'm on Windows, but test, well, it runs, it fails, but it fails for a reason. But at least it runs. Trying to run it from .NET Test from the command line was giving a really weird issue. Something about, I can't remember the warning message that was coming up with. Basically, it was saying I can't find any tests, which is weird because Rider could. I pulled her branch on my machine and ran it in Visual Studio. It failed, but at least it found it. And doing .NET Test on my machine gave me the exact same issue. So that was a weird one. I kind of had to leave her with, I don't know. I've never seen that before. So you have to look at that tomorrow. Anyway, in the interest of looking at things that are hopefully fixed, I got this from Mitch, which was a nice little find. There was apparently a bug in this code fix where it wasn't actually finding the literal expression syntax within. So we're getting a cast exception or something like that. It was very nice to give me a fix, which is actually really simple. You just have to add this argument and then put in a test to show you that when this case comes up, which again, this is what you should be doing, that it occurs. So I think I'm going to say prove, looks good to me, submit review, and now I can merge it. We'll merge it, and done. The one thing I want to do really quick on this still before I forget is let's go to manage branches. Let's pull it because I want to, what is, why does it do that sometimes? Like, why does it think? Pull. Sure, I don't know why you're saying you need to. Whatever. Okay, so we got the pull here. I just want to say in the change log, we have not released 1.10, so we should put a fix in here. Fixed an issue with the fix a cast issue with, and this we can say PR number 35, right? Because that's what that would have been. And then let's put that in there, and then we're done. So that way I can reference the issue there. I didn't know if I needed to put this into the next, like a bug fix release or whatever, but I don't have a release for this one just yet. So now at least I have the change log updated. So let's just make sure added 35 fix to, did I pick that one up right? Yes, it did. Very, very good. Okay. Added 35 fix to, I forgot if GitHub uses like the identifier for both issues and pull requests and all that stuff, and it does. So good. Change log. All right, so now let's go back into, actually there's one thing I wanted to look locally at. Am I? Yeah, I'm using verify as one. For some reason in this one I saw the word test being used in one. Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing that. Verify async. What? That's not an issue that Mitch did. I just want to see if I'm doing anything different here or not. All right, let's get some music going because otherwise it's too quiet in my ears. Okay, so let's go back to AutoDeconstruct. So I've been doing some work on that project, and that PR should have gone away, and it does. Good. Let's close that out. Let's go to AutoDeconstruct. There's a couple of issues I've been thinking of, and one of them will be simple to do, but it's probably going to break a couple of tests, maybe. And it's this one. Is that when I make the deconstruct method, that I get all the when I get all the accessible properties, that I just sort them by their name. And properties you can't overload by type. So you can't have a duplicate name. So the point is, this will just sort them all by their name and then use that as the ordering for all the deconstruct things. This will be a breaking change. I'm going to be doing a breaking change with the next release of this anyway. It's a breaking change in that it can reorder the out parameters of the deconstruct, but I want to do this because that way the behavior is not just how did I find these? It's the accessible properties sorted by their name, and then I think that makes it consistent. So let's do that. All right, and I know exactly where I want to do it because it's in this thing. What I want to actually do here is I don't necessarily, I can say new list here. Oh, to immutable array. There we go. Okay, so yeah, because it was an array before. All right, and this to me makes more sense, to do it this way. But the thing I want to do right before is I want to say sort. Actually, do you have to say sort? No, it's just sort. Oh, that's okay, sorry. These are all void returning. I did not, it's in place. So you can say sort. Okay, hold on, I'm not thinking right here. Order by, there. That's what I really want to do, is order it by that, and then say to immutable array. Okay. So if I run the tests, some of these are going to fail, and I bet they're going to fail just by the ordering. And it's also, oh, that's interesting. Oh. It's putting ID first. So, okay, well, there you go. Because this way, new name is actually, it's a string. GUID. But I thought that actually meant it's going to do this. New name. Yeah, now it builds. And now it catches up, and now, yeah, okay. And we got 6 failing. And I bet the ones that are failing is because things are out of order now. Yeah. So let's pin this, because it'll probably be easier to address these that way. So we want to say in this test that's failing, it's going to be that. And then it'll be this. Actually, I can just look at it and see. It'll be self-ID, comma, self-name, self-value. Okay. ID, name, value. Yep. Okay. Give me a moment here while I do some auto correction. So it'll be ID, name, and value. Okay. I didn't want to be dependent on any ordering within the file or how the symbols come back in the list or anything like that. Just go like in the order of names of properties. That's the easiest, most consistent way I can think of. It just takes a little bit of time now. Wait, that wasn't right. Oh, it's not there. It's in the generated code, Jason. And again, this should be ID, name, value. Name and value. This one, again, it should be in the generated code. And then we do that. 2 more. Okay, just that one. Yeah, because this only had 1. This one is going to have 3. ID and name. And so the ID goes there. And then 1 more. This one. Nope, I'm always doing it in the wrong spot. Down here. And guess what? Flipping that around again. All right. Run all the tests again. And they all pass. Yay, let's do the shutdown startup again. Jazz, because, you know. It's funny that one of the integration tests, I'm glad at least one of them failed because the ordering was wrong. Now this, again, if somebody's using this, which probably very few people are, but if you are and you had properties that were in a certain order coming out of the deconstruct, that will now technically be broken, but at least now I'm going to generate this no matter the same way, no matter what happens internally in Rocket and not Rocks, in Rosalind. Jeez, too many words in my head. In Rosalind. So if they ever made a change on how they order the things coming out or whatever the case may be, this is going to sort in a consistent way. So let's commit this. Deconstruct parameters are now sorted by name. Time for a merge. That one was pretty simple. I didn't think that was going to be hard. Oh, wait. I was going to update that change log. Changed. Deconstruct I should have deconstruct parameters are now sorted by name, property name. And this is issue 23. 23, there we go. Git commit. Also updated. Change log, put that in there. Actually, I don't even need to commit. I could do all this locally, but I like having things up in the cloud. All right, there we go. Delete that, and come over here, and we can close that issue. That was an easy one. I didn't think that was going to be that hard. So we got 6 left. Now, the thing that I want to do next is 21. 21. That is definitely the one I want to do next. Because originally I thought, well, when I was doing some work on this weekend and I was streaming it, I thought, well, what I could do is put in a bunch of analyzers, because now I have this just one attribute, and it was kind of being contextual. Like if you're declaring it on a type or you're declaring it at the assembly level, then you could have multiple instances in one place but not in the other. And somebody said, you know, maybe you should have 2 attributes, and that would clear up a lot of these. It wouldn't clear up this one per se, but it would clear up all these other ones. And so I'm thinking what we do is we have a new attribute, target AutoDeconstruct, that is only accessible at the assembly level, can be declared multiple times, and it would check that type value coming in, which now would have to be required. You can make it optional in that case. With this one, it would not even exist. So that would also be a little bit of a trick that I'd have to change the how do I want to say this? This would also have to change how the generator is working, because it's only looking for 1, and I got to now break it up so it's saying it's looking for 2 attributes, which is what it is, you know. So maybe what I should change this to is add a new attribute and create an analyzer to warn the user of issues. And then let's edit this, because I think I'm pretty much convinced that this is the right way to go. So let's come back up here and say, not Transpire, let's have 2 attributes. AutoDeconstruct. We should also create an analyzer to catch when the target type already has a deconstructor. And then this issue, second issue, is user specifies the type in the attribute, not the assembly level. That goes away because we'll check that in the attribute. Let's provide the type. We're going to make that forced. Fourth is close generics. I think I can also do that in the assembly level one as well. Okay. And I dumped these notes here because I don't want to lose them for right now. So let's go into AutoDeconstruct, which we are. Close all this. Git main, new branch. Bring that one there. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is, say, target AutoDeconstruct attribute. So we're going to want target. And we're going to do this. And the target one only exists at the assembly level. You can struct auto for the given type. Creates a new target type, specifies the type to add a deconstruct method for search. We still need that. We no longer need this remark here though. This now becomes required. That's no longer an optional argument. So we can now say this: if is null, throw a new ANE, name of target type. This target type equals that, which I don't even think I was necessarily doing correctly before, but now I am. And we can say exception, argument, null exception, thrown if C, paramref is C, don't say it, lang word, no. There, okay. Also, we're going to want an exception of argument exception. Thrown if target type is a closed generic. If target type generic we don't want a generic type definition. Because you can have a type that derives from a generic type, but it, in the derivation, like it says in the base type definition, it puts in it closes the generic there, and so that type is not generic in and of itself. The base type is generic. So what we would want to do, and this is just because I forgot the rules around well, we can go to .NET Lab, right? .NET Lab. So let's do this. We can have a public class thing of T. We don't really care. I can't always say save here. Console right, so we can say var thing type is equal to, actually no, let's do this. And then we just want public class no thing. Type of no thing is generic type. And these should both be console write line. And then if we say type of thing, here we'll say thing of string. Thing of string. I keep trying to save it. Control S. So the first one, they're both false as expected. The second one, it's true because it is a generic type and it is a generic type definition. The third one is if it is a generic type, but it is not a generic type definition, that's a problem. And it is not a target type, is generic type definition. And again, this is something that during one of the previous streams, I can't remember who said it, but they were like, well, if you got a generic type, couldn't you just say the target type is the generic type definition? Like you could say here, target type, generic type, get generic type definition. Which I could, but I think I also want to be explicit to say, don't put in a closed generic, because if you want to create a deconstructor for thing of t here, don't just make it for thing of string, thing of whatever. You want to make it for thing of that generic, because then when you're actually trying to use it somewhere, you're getting the generic deconstruct version, and then it can be anything you want. So we're going to do that. We're going to say here, throw new argument exception cannot provide a closed generic type. Name of target type. Okay, so we've got those. So now we could put in some tests for this. We should already have some for public static void create. I had tests for the targeting of this. I did not have a test for the attribute itself, and I guess I should technically have that. So we want to say var attribute is equal to new target AutoDeconstruct attribute. We could say type of string, or we could, again, you want to have your tests owning its data. So internal sealed class, not generic type. And then we can just leave it as that. Assert, using assert multiple, enter multiple scope. So I learned that the last time. Assert that attribute.target type is, and then we can throw this up in a var target type is equal to that. And then we could do this equal to, sure. And then we can also say here that search is equal to search for extension methods. No, by default, if we don't specify it. Okay. Now we want to say create when target type is null. So in this case, we can easily just say assert that new target AutoDeconstruct attribute null throws type of A&E. Yep. We don't need any of that. Expression bodied. And then we also need one that will say create when target type is closed generic. And so we can say internal sealed class generic type of T. And so in this case, we're going to say type of generic type, except we're just putting not generic type. And then we'll say, we got to close that off. So then let's be consistent here. And And now this is going to be argument exception. Run these tests. They succeed. Okay. So if we go back up to our attribute here, it's an assembly. It allows for multiple of them. Here it doesn't really, except now with this attribute, we do not want it to target the assembly level. You can only have one of them on. There will be no target type because we're removing it from this one. We don't need no remarks here anymore, and we can pull this out. Perfect. And then let's immediately go into the generator and handle the case at least. If it's an AutoDeconstruct, we no longer this is the one that's going to bite me because it's an incremental values provider. This was something I needed to do with rocks a while ago because I did have two attributes. And so I wanted to combine the output for them. But maybe what I can do maybe I can do that. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong thing to do. But I could say is have this for AutoDeconstruct, have another one for the target AutoDeconstruct, register the source output to grab the types from this and do the create output, and the same thing for the other one. And through the pipeline, if you did do something where you were targeting the same type both by attributing it on the type and with an assembly level declaration, both the target types would come out of this, but the pipeline would see that they're both like duplicates, and they would see that they've already occurred. So there would be no reason to do those. That would be my hope. So let's just go with that. So in this case, we want for attribute with metadata name here. But we also want it again. But we want here to be assembly types, types. And we'll just call this types. Okay, so now in this case, we don't care about is that the assembly or type level, because here we're going to get the attribute. And we don't have to make this check here anymore. We can just do search. Except, I messed up a little bit. If it's assembly symbol, it's that. The target type is going to be this. And we can assume it's that, and we can get rid of that and this. Now we've got that. Okay, so we grab the target type and we grab the search. Oh. There we go. All right, now in this case, we want to say target, right? And now we know that it is at the assembly level. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that the target type is the first constructor argument as an INAME symbol, right? There. And we don't need to check this anymore because we know it won't be null. So really both of these are almost the same. You know? And so that's where I'm kind of like The only thing you get the same on is really this. Well, search and this. So oops, that needs to be 0 now. Okay. And so now we need to just do this. Assembly types collect. Same thing. They just targeting stuff and it says push those out and do those. I wonder if I could combine types combine with assembly types. Because you think, at least in my head, that would make sense. Type arguments. Try specifying the arguments correctly. What is this? Is an incremental values provider. As a value provider. I never can get my head around these two. I'm like, there's collect, there's combine. That's just a value provider. I want smush. That's what I really want. Just throw those both together, but I'll just go with this for now and say, have fun. Okay, so we're doing those two. And now the target types here, what we really want is a target AutoDeconstruct attribute target tests, right? That's this one. And so we can just say generate async because the only thing it can do is at the assembly level. There is no concept of doing that at the type level. Okay. And then here, oh, wait a minute. So now this has to be target AutoDeconstruct. And we no longer have to specify that. We can, but we no longer need to do that because we're saying that is actually correct and that you're required to pass it in. Oh, I just realized something. One is going to make one file. One is going to make the other. Fine. String file name. So in the case of the types, it'll be this. This will be target AutoDeconstruct. So then here you just say file name. And then that stays the same except for here this now becomes target AutoDeconstruct. What did I break? Only one. Huh. Oh, yeah, this won't happen anymore. Generate a type level, nested type level. Okay, fine. So now they all pass. Do the fun dance. And oh, that's an interesting one. Failed to generate. Oh, I bet. Yeah. I bet I know why. We need this to now be target AutoDeconstruct attribute tests. And this needs to be target would you look at that? They all pass. And if I put the breakpoint here, and now I say F11, it goes into the target AutoDeconstruct ones. So it keeps those two separate, but hopefully with the compilation infrastructure and having the immutable data models, it should prevent that if you did two, that would only do one. I guess we could do a test for that, right? I have a test here to say, well, let's commit this first. 21, added assembly level attribute. So I don't want to lose that. Okay. Now what we could have is a test to say what happens when we have two there. Do you get two? So let's just make attribute target tests. And let's see what we see. So we're going to say static test public static async task generate when duplication exists async. So what do I mean by that? Let's put in this code essentially. And so we're putting the attribute here, but then we also want to put the AutoDeconstruct attribute. It is something that's always bugged me a slight bit, is that the library is called AutoDeconstruct, but then you have a type. Well, it's called AutoDeconstruct attribute, so okay, that's fine. So now what's going to happen in this case? Which one wins? This is why I don't want to do what I'm doing here. I'd rather combine them into two, because well, let's just see what this does. Oh, it fails because I can't write code. So why did it fail? Yeah, it still created both. And so that's actually not what we want. What we really want is, let's go back to here. And what we really want is just one file that contains all of them. Okay. And so we come back to the generator. We're going to get rid of passing in the file name. We're just going to make it that by default. Get rid of this. And then we'll come down here. We'll say that's a file name. But now we still need to combine these two. So types is type symbol model. Assembly types is that model. So a collect could you combine here with a and then what's the source here? Two of them. I don't know why this drives me nuts a little bit, but it does. There's actually, I think in here, did I have something? You can avoid the select many names collect if you take the list and convert it to an equatable array that you return. From this comment. This is in a Discord channel. Running through each type of assembly Here's somebody prize. Yeah, this is also where the discussion of what I was doing was coming up. You can avoid the select many names if you take the list and convert it to an equatable array that you return. Okay, I think I know what he's saying. Except now, how do you add? Okay. I get his point. Whatever. The AutoDeconstruct, the attributes, those will be unique. That I know. The ones at the metadata level may not be. Because you could potentially have that attribute declared in multiple places and targeting the same type in multiple places. And we don't want that. So I think I might stop here because I've hit a little bit of a, I'm not going to say a snag. I just don't exactly know how to get around what I'm doing here. I always found this weird that you have a predicate for the syntax node. Because I'm already restricting it to this thing. I could, I guess, say new equatable array of type symbol model. And then you can avoid the collect. Because what is this doing now? If I just did this, what is he getting at? Types is now a values provider of that. And I guess let's do this too. Combine doesn't work here, yeah. Register source output. you take a values provider. I said collect here. That doesn't work at all because then, again, I don't know why. This API just, it does not make sense to me as to why you do one thing over the other. Select names may collect if you take the list and convert it to a return. That's what I'm doing now. And I get a values provider. But what does register source output need? It needs a value provider or value or values provider. So types. If I say collect, or if I say combine, that is a incremental value provider of assembly types combine or collect. What comes out of this? An incremental I'm screaming into the wind here going, why did this have to be so goddamn complicated? Like, for an attribute with a metadata name, you're going to give me potentially a list of attributes. And of course, I know what I give out could be a whole bunch of things, but why can't you just take that? And I get that it has to somehow be like wrapped with this thing, but it just feels so like, I don't get it. I just literally, and I know it's in the cookbook. I know that they talk about this in the cookbook design documents. I get it. So that's why I'm going to stop the stream here because I need to go eat dinner. And it is unclear to me at this point how I want to take the type symbol models from these two productions and say, put them together in a way that they're unique, and so I don't have a duplication. And I don't know. I mean, if I can't do that there, I could do it in here in the create output and just say, whatever comes through in here, you know, I could make sure that it's like immutable hash set or immutable something or whatever it is, and just say these have to be unique. But I can't figure out for the life of me how to do that right now. So I'm going to stop right now. I'll probably look at this tomorrow morning or something. I probably won't do a stream on it, but I'm going to look at this a little bit more later. So for now, I'm going to stop. I want to thank everybody who is watching either live or watching the VOD later on. If you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. Would greatly appreciate it. Trying to get to 5,000 subscribers as my new goals. So any new subscription helps. If you've already subscribed, appreciate you. Thank you for doing that. I will continue to work on this, do some reading off camera again and seeing if I can get my head around what I actually want this thing to do. And then hopefully get this task wrapped up. So with that, oh, Mitch is here. I just saw that. Hey, Mitch, go fix this. It's not your fault. I can put this up in let me commit this. 21. Code is currently broken. Need to fix the combine, collect, whatever. If you want to take a look at it, Mitch, go ahead. But my current struggle is I cannot figure out. I now have two attributes in this AutoDeconstruct thing, and I'm trying to combine the production of these because they both create type symbol models. They both create a list of these models. So in the AutoDeconstruct one, those will always be unique. For target AutoDeconstruct, because they're at the assembly level, you could potentially get, that could make this a hash set, but you could still have the same one in both lists that are both collections coming out. And so I want to collect them, combine them, and get them in the output in such a way that they all kind of mesh together as uniqueness, but I can't figure it out. So that was not a change I made. Okay, so that's something that I need to look later on. If you're bored today, go ahead, check it out. But I did merge in your PR, so I got that in place. So with that, I'm going to stop the stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care. Hope to see you in the future.